Come on back, peaceful. With my face turned to the side, weight on my shoulder, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can when I can for people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I take my people with together into a brand new. If I'm gonna keep on keeping on. I can take walk your freedom. Subside. Gonna start moving. Way to salvation. Wanna stand up, take my people, get to a brand new. Harriet.
Time now is 6 p.m. and welcome to our first Loc Nation public meeting. And I'm going to pull up our agenda for today. We're gonna keep it kind of brief, but the agenda for today is to welcome and discuss our introduction, share our grievances, identify common themes, explore remedies, prioritize and plan, and have an open floor discussion. Based on the amount of attendees, we will adjust this agenda accordingly. And I will go ahead and share the screen so that those who could not make it are able to follow along based off of what we discussed here today. So, a little disclaimer. This is a non-disclosure agreement which will apply to everyone who has logged on and is part of this meeting today, June 12th, 2023. Give me 1 second. We're having an issue with some of the people trying to get in. So, please, thank you. Right. Alright, so this again is the non-disclosure agreement for State of Loc Nation public meeting. We ask that you not share any of the pertinent information that we discuss here today, just until we're able to reach all the heads of state and departments that we need to send the information to in order to make this truly an effective and easy transition into what we need to do for Okay, and I'll just hold that up for a little bit for whomever needs to read through it. I'll give you a few minutes to review it. We have exciting news. This is going to be a published document. It is the volume 2 of Reveal, the Kingdom of Loc's Nazareth Vow Continues. Change is nature and it starts with a lock. I thought that was a wonderful phrase or tagline to add. As you can see, this is the Loc Nation flag, and we just added some photos of one of the social media challenges that we were doing is just showing that Lox is everywhere, and it's in different lengths, different shapes, different, looks, and it's still beautiful all in their own right. And I thought that this was a great book cover. So that will be volume 2, and it's going to also include a lot of the information that we discussed here today, including some other documents and things. So stay tuned. I will announce and let everyone know that I have posted it. Um, and you can, the people who attend this public seminar will definitely get a copy for their own selves. Sorry, that was my timer. I was trying to make sure I was on time. So what we plan to do is to submit these documents because what people have been going through for generations, and typically in the African American community, we have been going through so many different challenges that apparently is systematic. And throughout history and throughout my research, I have realized that this is something that every tribe, community, race has gone through in some form of fashion. But as we know, these different sayings, it came to me that the pen is mightier than the sword. And I dwelled on that, and I just really needed to understand what did that mean entirely until now, right? Through my 8 years of research, I realized that we can protest as a people as much as you want to, but unless the paperwork in the private end is done, nothing will entirely change because the system is ran by documents, and the system is ran by policies and procedures, and the system is ran by organized systems that verbal action just would not be able to budge. But when you implement documents, that's what we're gonna need to actually get some change. And so the part here is just putting the documents together. And unfortunately, it probably just took us so long because we are a people, one, that follows our oral law, and two, we are a people who just this is not our language, this is not our words, this is not how we do things. And it just took generations, unfortunately, to be able to translate. And it took now where technology released so access to so much information, that we were able to obtain what we needed to obtain in order to do what we needed to do right. Because before having access to this information, there was a lot of gatekeeping where we may have gotten some of the information, but not necessarily all of it. But everything is public. So the good beauty of it all is that there's nothing hidden, and anything that you hear me say or discuss or read about, you can do your own research and also confirm the information for your own peace of mind or your own knowledge. So my children were supposed to do an introduction today, but we had a long morning, and unfortunately they're sleeping early. So we're gonna skip their parts. Okay. And this, I'm gonna skip this speech as well because this was in reference to the photo shoot that we had previously, which was a few weeks ago. And the table of contents, of course, will discuss or it has listed everything that's in this document. Um, Even though it stops on here, I do have to do some more work to it, but it stops at 279 and it's actually over a 300-page document. So what I wanted to discuss, was just going to go straight into the various grievances only because there were so many. And our grievances of fact are, and I will go ahead and just leave each page up. As you can see, let's see, it goes up until 41 grievances. So that's what is going to be presented to all the different heads of state that is needed to be contacted in order for something to be done. So I will leave each one up to give you some time to review it. But mainly it's the slavery and Jim Crow era, which we heard recently that I believe in Mississippi, they were trying to reverse this and bring this back, which is ridiculous at this day and age. But again, if nothing is said or done, then they are entitled to do what they like to do. So this is us trying to do something different. Systematic racism, again, as I had mentioned earlier, and we all are very, very familiar, but systematic racism is a real thing. Police brutality and racial profiling, we know that we have been plagued forever with that. Police brutality, I did say that. Economic inequality, education disparities. Give me 1 second while you read that over, and let me just check in with the person who needed it. Um, yeah. I'll go ahead to the next page. I'm not sure why the link is not working. How many tabs open? I just checked on. I'm just gonna continue. Healthcare disparities, housing discrimination, voter suppression, stereotyping and media representation. We see this all the time. Environmental injustices, mass incarceration, excuse me, educational achievement gaps, employment discrimination, health disparities, cultural appropriation and stereotyping, lack of access to capital and business opportunities, microaggressions and everyday racism, limited political representation, disappropriate poverty, lack of access to quality legal representation that goes along with the mass incarceration, lack of representation in leadership positions, disinvestments in urban community, mental health disparities, and as you know that we are all struggling with some form of CPTSD, which is an advanced version of PTSD, which that's one of my goals is to get proper funding so that we can start reversing those issues within our community. Educational disparity in discipline, stereotype threats, Loc Nation, we definitely experience that on a daily basis. Intersectionality, systematic racism, colonial legacy and post-colonial challenges, colorism, global health disparities, immigration and refugee challenges, cultural appropriation, political underrepresentation, stereotyping and racial bias, language and cultural barriers, disappropriate violence and crime, education, funding disparities, immigration and deportation issues, which we're seeing right now in the news as well, discrimination in the LGBT community, um, economic exploitation, mental health stigma. These are the grievances that we are standing on to submit our documentations in terms of a Declaration of Independence. And there's different letters that is going to be sent out that has already been signed and notarized to be sent out. As you can see, as I scroll through the letters, they have already been signed and notarized and are scheduled to go out. I didn't want to send them out until we had this meeting. So just that I made sure that I was able to get everyone's feedback or comments or concerns or anything like that. Originally, we were going to go with a petition for federal acknowledgement as a Loc tribe community. However, it just didn't sit well with my spirit uh, in terms of petitioning. I just didn't agree with having to petition anything. And petitioning is just like asking permission. But we understand throughout history, every time we ask, nothing happens. So I did, however, leave this document in here because it did still had a wealth of information in terms of my culture, my tribe, which is our tribe, our culture. Because as if you have read the first book, it did introduce how it was the tribe of King David, Benjamin, and it leaded into the Maroons, which the Maroons ended up splitting out into several different Maroons. It wasn't just the Caribbeans. We also covered the Virginians and the different races all had their maroons. So that's why we are all here today. So it just gave you a historical overview. Treaties are very, very important. Through my research, I understand that treaties is kind of the glue between the indigenous and the government, right? So they would honor, so to speak, whatever treaty was done with our forefathers. So it was just very important to include the different treaties. And because my family is Arawak and Maroon, then we had two on file that I was able to utilize in order to pull this all together. So it goes into heritage, it goes into details on the Taino that is also Arawak Indians. I was raised as knowing them as Arawak, and then through my research, I now see that they're kind of one of the same, the Tainos and the Arawak. But I was always raised, it was described to me as Arawak Indians and Maroons. So that's how I know them. And what's beautiful is that there's evidence of them here in Georgia at the is I forget the name of I think it's like Smart Creek or Smart Water Creek or something like that, preserve part, Sweetwater Creek. So they have evidence of Arawak Indians in Georgia, which was nice. So I'm still looking into that and how I can connect those dots with everything. So this then it goes into the Maroons, as I mentioned. This document again will be available for those who want to review it. And it also will be a public document as well once we finish changing. I just need to change the page numbers because I had to rearrange some of these documents so it just flowed better. But again, let's see if I can change the right 305 pages, as you can see. So it's a pretty lengthy wealth of information, and I'm super proud of it. And I'm so excited to know how powerful this document is, and I am honored to be a messenger of this information. And I also, because the glossaries in the back and stuff like that. So I also included the glossary from the previous book, Reveal the Kingdom of Locks, and I added it in here as well. Also in this document is the preamble, which is um, necessary to submit with the paperwork as well. And as soon as my computer speeds up a little bit, uh, I can hover over that area. It's my computer wants to play this after this stuff. Mm. I think if I bring it to the back and then work my way up, it'll be better. It's moving super slow today. I'm so sorry, but it'll be here in a minute. Yeah, sure. Besides the link didn't work, but for her, beautiful part is I'll be able to get her copy from her. I promise you, I did a trial run and this thing was working. but it's probably it's later in the day. So, third, okay. So, yep. Are you gonna move slow too? You guys. Working it. A guard dog. So my goal is to do this as peaceful as possible. It's just not necessary. We got enough drama going on. All I do want is not to be able to leave my kids in a world where they're gonna have the same stories. Uh, so that is the goal, and I am very focused on making sure articles. Telling you this document is getting deep. So proud of it. Okay, here it is. Now, I just don't know how to make this bigger. But anyway, so here's the preamble, which is like the introduction before we get to the different articles or the Constitution or our rule book. So all that is in there. The template is in there. So what I wanted is to have a few additional volunteers who would like to sit down and go through this with a fine tooth comb. However, we do have a template there, but more heads is better than none or one or some. And I am willing to discuss this with as many of the community as possible to make sure that we focus on all the needs of the people and not just the grievances, but also the solutions. So this is a brief overview of the public meeting on the state of Loc Nation and what's happening and what's going on. And you have a brief overview of the document. It is 305 pages. This is a real thing. This really is being mailed out as you've seen by the notarized documents. And that concludes this meeting for today on June 12th I thank you so much for your time, attention, and until next time, talk to you soon. Take care.